After careful consideration, we've decided to give the position to someone with fresh perspective. Your dedication is appreciated, but we need new energy moving forward. Those words landed like a wrecking ball to my chest, not because they were harsh, because they were delivered so casually, like he was commenting on the weather. My father-in-law sat there, sipping his morning coffee, barely looking up as he spoke. 3 years, 1,095 days of arriving before sunrise and leaving after dark. 3 years of building everything from the ground up while he took the credit, and this was how it ended. The girl sitting next to him, Lily, his brother's daughter, was texting someone, barely paying attention. She'd been working here for 8 weeks. Yesterday, she'd asked me how to fill out a basic purchase order. Yesterday. You understand, right? He continued, wiping coffee from his lip. Nothing personal, just business. I felt something crack inside me, but I kept my face perfectly still, because what he didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that I held every single card, and I was about to play them all. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments where you're listening from right now. Are you at work, dealing with your own frustrating situation, stuck in traffic? I want to know who's here with me. And if you've ever felt invisible at your job, ever felt like your hard work meant nothing, hit that subscribe button because this story is for you. Trust me, you'll want to hear every word of what I did next. My name is Rhea. I'm 31 years old, and I've always been the type of person who fixes things quietly. In school, I was the one who organized group projects, while others took credit. At my first job, I streamlined systems that saved thousands, and my manager got promoted for it. I never minded much. I liked solving problems more than I liked attention. But that personality trait, that quiet competence, it made me easy to overlook, easy to underestimate, easy to betray. Let me take you back 5 years, to when this whole situation started. I met my husband Felix at a community workshop about small business development. He was charming, in an understated way, the kind of person who listened more than he talked. His father, Roland, ran a small distribution company, the kind that connected manufacturers with retail locations. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady work. Felix helped out occasionally, but had his own career in technical support. We dated for 8 months before he proposed. Simple ceremony, small gathering, nothing extravagant. My parents liked Felix immediately. He was genuine, hardworking, respectful. What they were less sure about was Roland. My father, who'd spent 30 years building his own manufacturing business, noticed things. The way Roland talked big, but delivered small. The way he blamed others when things went wrong. The way he treated people who worked for him. Be careful with family business arrangements, my father warned me one evening, about 2 months after the wedding. Money and family don't mix well. I brushed it off then. I was 26, newly married, working at a research lab studying supply chain efficiency. Life felt full of possibility. Roland's business was Felix's concern, not mine, or so I thought. Everything changed when Roland approached us during a Sunday dinner at his house. He was excited, talking rapidly about an expansion opportunity. A major manufacturer was looking for a new regional distributor. If Roland could secure the contract, it would triple his revenue. But there was a problem. The manufacturer required significant insurance coverage, updated facility certifications, and credit guarantees. Roland's previous business venture, something he rarely discussed, had left his credit damaged. Banks wouldn't extend him the necessary capital. I just need a bridge, he explained, leaning forward with desperate intensity. 6 months to get everything in order. Maybe a year. I've got clients lined up. This is guaranteed money. My parents had the resources. After selling a property investment, they had capital sitting idle, earning minimal interest. Felix looked at me across the table, hope in his expression. This was his father, his family. How could we not help? My mother's lawyer, a sharp woman named Petra, who'd protected my family through multiple business dealings, insisted on reviewing everything. She spent 2 weeks examining Roland's business structure, his contracts, his debts. When she called us into her office, her expression was serious. I can't recommend a simple loan, Petra said, sliding a folder toward my parents. Roland's credit situation is worse than he indicated. He defaulted on a previous business loan 4 years ago. There are outstanding judgments. If you lend him money directly and things go wrong, recovery will be nearly impossible. My father's jaw tightened. Then what do you suggest? Form a new legal entity. Clean slate. Rhea becomes the primary owner on all formation documents, licensing, and tax registrations. This protects your capital investment and gives you actual control if things deteriorate. Roland can be listed as operations manager. He runs the day-to-day, but legally, Rhea owns the company. I remember the feeling in that moment, like I was being handed something enormous that I didn't ask for. Why me specifically? I asked. Because you're the one with clean credit, stable employment history, and the intelligence to understand what you're signing, Petra replied. If this goes into your parents' names, it complicates their existing business holdings. You're the safest option. Roland agreed immediately when we presented the arrangement. Too immediately, looking back. It's just paperwork, he assured everyone, grinning widely. Makes the banks happy. You won't have to do anything, Rhea. I'll handle everything. Think of it as your name on the door while I do the actual work. Felix squeezed my hand under the table. It's really generous of you, he whispered. Dad's been struggling for years. This could change everything for him. So I signed. Stacks of documents creating a new business entity with me as the registered owner. My name on the operating license. My name on the tax identification. My name on the liability insurance. My parents transferred the capital into the business account, $50,000 to cover facility upgrades, inventory deposits, insurance bonds, and initial operating expenses. Roland moved quickly once the money cleared. He signed the contract with the manufacturer, upgraded the warehouse facility on the east side of town, hired 4 employees, and started operations within 6 weeks. I went back to my research job, checking in occasionally to sign official documents that required the owner's signature, banking paperwork, insurance renewals, permit applications. Roland would drop by our apartment with forms, I'd sign, and he'd disappear again. Everything's running smooth, he'd say cheerfully. Revenue's building exactly like I predicted. You picked a winner backing this venture, Rhea. Felix was happy. His father finally had something successful going. Sunday dinners became celebrations where Roland talked about landing new clients, expanding inventory, hiring additional staff. My parents seemed satisfied that their investment was being put to good use. For about 4 months, everything seemed fine. Then I got the first phone call from the State Commerce Department. A woman named Angela, speaking in that careful tone government workers use when something's wrong. Miss Rhea, I'm calling regarding your business registration. We've received an incomplete quarterly report, and there are some discrepancies in your employee tax withholdings. Since you're listed as the owner, you're responsible for correcting this within 15 days or facing penalties. My stomach dropped. I'm sorry. What discrepancies? My operations manager handles all that. The owner is ultimately responsible for all tax compliance, Angela replied. I'm sending the details to the email address on file. Please review and respond promptly. I called Roland immediately. He was dismissive, almost annoyed. It's nothing. Probably just a filing error. I'll get my bookkeeper to handle it. Roland, they said 15 days, or there are penalties. This is serious. Rhea, relax. I've been running businesses for 20 years. This happens all the time. I'll fix it. But he didn't fix it. A week later, Angela called again, more insistent. The corrections hadn't been submitted. The deadline was approaching. If I didn't handle it personally, the business would face fines and potential license suspension. That weekend, I drove to the warehouse facility for the first time since the opening. Roland seemed surprised to see me, not particularly pleased. I asked to review the bookkeeping records, the employee files, the tax documentation. He hemmed and hawed, said his bookkeeper was off that day, suggested I come back another time. Roland, the state needs corrections in 4 days. I need to see everything now. He finally led me to a cramped back office where papers were stacked in chaotic piles. No organized filing system, no proper bookkeeping software, just handwritten ledgers and scattered receipts. I spent 6 hours that Saturday sorting through the mess, finding errors everywhere. Employee hours recorded incorrectly, tax withholdings calculated wrong, expenses categorized improperly. It wasn't malicious. It was just sloppy, careless, the work of someone who didn't think details mattered. I stayed up until 3 a.m. that night, teaching myself the tax reporting software, correcting everything, submitting the forms myself. When I finally crawled into bed, Felix stirred awake. You okay? He mumbled. Your father's bookkeeping is a disaster, I whispered. If I hadn't fixed it, we would have faced serious penalties. Felix was quiet for a moment. Maybe you could just check in more often? Make sure things stay on track? That's how it started. Checking in once a week, then twice a week, then stopping by after my research job ended at 5, staying until 8 or 9 to organize files, correct errors, follow up on things Roland forgot. He seemed grateful at first, in a distant way, like I was doing him a favor he'd vaguely acknowledged but didn't fully appreciate. 3 months into this arrangement, one of the major clients threatened to leave. A shipment had been delayed because Roland forgot to place the order with the supplier. The client's retail locations ran out of stock, costing them sales during a busy season. They were furious, ready to cancel their contract. I found out because the client called the business line, and I happened to be there organizing inventory records. The man on the phone was yelling, demanding to speak to whoever was actually in charge. Roland was out, unreachable, so I took the call. "Sir, I completely understand your frustration," I said, keeping my voice steady. "This is unacceptable. I'm going to personally contact our supplier right now and arrange emergency expedited shipping. You'll have your product within 48 hours, and we'll cover the expedite fees. Additionally, I'll ensure you receive a discount on your next 3 orders as an apology." "Who am I speaking with?" the man demanded. "My name is Rhea. I'm the owner." There was a pause. "I've been dealing with Roland for months. He never mentioned an owner." "Well, now you're dealing with me, and this won't happen again." I spent the next 4 hours calling in favors with the supplier, arranging overnight shipping, personally checking inventory levels for this client's other pending orders. When Roland returned the next morning and found out what I'd done, he wasn't grateful. He was defensive. "You made us look weak," he complained. "Offering discounts, covering fees. That eats into profit margins." "Losing the client would eat into profit margins more," I replied. "They were about to cancel a contract worth $30,000 annually. I would have smoothed it over. I have relationships with these people. Your relationship was about to end. I saved it." He didn't like that. I could see it in his expression, the way his mouth tightened. He didn't like me stepping into his territory, making decisions, talking to clients. But he couldn't argue with results. The client stayed. In fact, the client started requesting to deal with me directly for important matters. That's when Felix's father made his first attempt to push me back out. He started having employee meetings when I wasn't there, making decisions without telling me, changing processes I'd set up. Small power plays designed to remind everyone that he was in charge, not me. But here's the thing about having your name on all the legal documents. You get copied on everything. Insurance renewals, permit inspections, supplier contracts, bank statements. I saw everything, whether Roland wanted me to or not. And what I saw worried me. He'd hired his friend's son, paying him twice what the position warranted. He'd switched to a cheaper supplier for one product line without checking quality, and returns were increasing. He'd made verbal promises to clients that weren't documented anywhere, creating potential liability issues. Each decision individually seemed small, but together they formed a pattern of carelessness that could sink the entire operation. I tried talking to Felix about it. We were lying in bed one Tuesday night, both exhausted from long days. I explained my concerns gently, trying not to sound like I was attacking his father. "Maybe he just has a different management style," Felix suggested. "He's been doing this a long time. His previous business failed," I reminded him quietly. "That was different circumstances. The economy was bad." "Felix, I'm seeing the same patterns. Hiring based on relationships instead of qualifications, ignoring details, making impulsive decisions without thinking through consequences." He rolled over to face me, and I saw something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Defensiveness mixed with guilt. "What do you want me to do, Rhea? Tell my dad he's incompetent? This business is his second chance, our family's second chance." "I'm not saying he's incompetent. I'm saying he needs help, real help. Maybe a proper bookkeeper, or a business consultant, or we can't afford that. The margins are tight. The margins are tight because he's overpaying his friend's son and using cheap suppliers that create expensive returns." Felix sat up, frustration clear now. "You're always criticizing. Nothing's ever good enough for you. Dad's trying his best." That stung. I'd been working myself to exhaustion trying to keep this business afloat, and somehow I was the problem for noticing the issues. I didn't respond. I just turned away and eventually fell into restless sleep. 2 weeks later, Roland asked if I could help out part-time at the business. One of his employees had quit suddenly, and they were short-handed. Just temporarily, he assured me. A few weeks until he found a replacement. I'm working full-time at the research lab, I reminded him. I don't have spare hours. Just evenings and maybe weekends. Please, Rhea. I looked at Felix, who gave me a hopeful, pleading expression. So I agreed. Temporarily. Temporarily became 3 years. I'd finish my 8-hour shift at the lab, drive directly to the warehouse, and work another 4 to 6 hours handling orders, managing inventory, talking to clients, fixing whatever crisis had emerged that day. Saturdays and Sundays became full workdays. My coworkers at the lab started commenting on how tired I looked. My friends stopped inviting me to things because I always said no. Felix and I barely saw each other, despite living in the same apartment. But the business stabilized. More than stabilized, it grew. I rebuilt the entire supplier network after Roland's cheap quality experiment damaged relationships. I personally flew to meet 3 major suppliers, negotiated better terms, established trust. When our largest client had a quality complaint, I didn't just apologize. I implemented a new inspection system that caught defects before shipping. That client told 2 others about our reliability. Revenue increased 40% in the first year I was actively involved. I restructured the inventory system, using software I researched and implemented myself. Suddenly, we could track stock levels in real time, predict reorder needs, reduce waste. Efficiency jumped, costs dropped, profit margins improved dramatically. Roland took credit for all of it. At Sunday dinners, he'd talk about his strategies and his business growth while I sat quietly eating, too exhausted to correct him. My parents would smile proudly at him, not realizing I was the one arriving at the warehouse at 6 in the morning, the one staying until midnight closing deals, the one sacrificing everything. Year 2, Felix started making comments. Little things at first. You're always working. We never spend time together anymore. Then bigger things. I feel like I'm married to a ghost. You're either at the lab or at Dad's business. When do I get a wife? I tried explaining that his father needed help, that the business would collapse without someone competent running things. But Felix's resentment grew. We started arguing. About my hours. About my priorities. About why I couldn't just let his father handle his own business. Because it's my name on everything, I finally shouted during one particularly brutal fight. When the state calls about violations, they call me. When clients sue for breach of contract, they sue me. When the insurance lapses because your father forgot to pay the premium, I'm the one legally responsible. I can't just walk away from something that could destroy my entire future. Felix stared at me, something shifting in his expression. Is that what this is about? You're just protecting yourself? I'm protecting all of us. My voice cracked. Do you know how many times I've saved this business from complete failure? How many nights I've stayed up fixing your father's mistakes? How many opportunities I've turned down at my real job because I was too busy cleaning up disasters at the warehouse? Nobody asked you to do all that. Those words, that sentence, it broke something fundamental inside me. Nobody asked you to do all that. Like my work was optional. Like my sacrifice was a choice I made for fun. I stopped arguing after that. I just kept working, kept fixing, kept holding everything together with nothing but willpower and stubborn competence. Because what was the alternative? Watch it all crumble and take my legal identity down with it? Year 3. Roland started talking about the future of leadership. He wanted to bring more family into management positions. People you can trust, he'd say meaningfully. Blood family. Felix warned me one evening, his voice careful. Dad's been talking about bringing Lily in. His brother's been pushing for it. Says she needs career opportunities. Lily, Roland's niece, 24 years old, recently graduated with a marketing degree. No real work experience. I'd met her twice at family gatherings. She spent both occasions glued to her phone, barely acknowledging anyone. Bringing her in to do what? I asked. Felix shrugged uncomfortably. He mentioned something about a management development position. We don't have budget for management development positions. It's family, Rhea. Family helps family. There it was again. That word, family. The boundary that somehow didn't include me, despite being married into it. Despite having my name on every legal document. Despite building everything from ashes. Lily started in early spring. Roland gave her a tour while I was at the lab. Established her in a workspace. introduced her to everyone as our new strategic operations associate. I came in that evening and found her playing games on her phone while two other employees scrambled to fulfill a rush order. "Hi," I said, approaching her workspace. "I'm Rhea. I don't think we've been properly introduced in a work context." She glanced up briefly. "Oh, yeah. Hi. Uncle Roland mentioned you help out sometimes." "Help out sometimes?" I managed to smile. "I'm actually the owner. My name's on all the registration documents." "Oh." She looked genuinely surprised. "That's weird. Uncle Roland acts like he owns it." 8 weeks. That's how long Lily worked there before the morning that shattered everything. 8 weeks of watching her arrive late, leave early, scroll through social media, while actual work piled up. 8 weeks of covering for her mistakes, fixing her errors, redoing tasks she'd done incorrectly. 8 weeks of Roland praising her fresh thinking and creative energy while barely acknowledging my existence. Then came the promotion announcement. Roland called a morning meeting. All 12 employees gathered in the warehouse break area. I stood in the back, having rushed over from the lab during my lunch break, because he'd said it was important. "I'm excited to announce a new leadership position," Roland began, smiling broadly. "We're creating a director of operations role to help guide our strategic future. After careful consideration, I've decided that Lily's fresh perspective and innovative thinking make her the perfect fit." The words after that blurred together. Something about dedication being appreciated but needing new energy moving forward. Something about confidence in the team's ability to support this transition. I watched Lily's face light up with surprised delight. I watched the other employees exchange confused glances. I watched Roland avoid looking at me entirely. Director of Operations. The position I'd been performing without title or recognition for 3 years. Given to someone who'd been here 2 months and couldn't process a basic purchase order without help. When the meeting ended, Roland finally approached me. "You understand, right? Nothing personal, just a business decision." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw exactly what he'd always seen me as. Free labor, a signature on documents, something useful but ultimately disposable. Not family, not valuable, not even human enough to deserve honest conversation. "Of course," I heard myself say calmly. "I understand completely." I walked to the small office area where I'd spent countless hours, pulled out my personal items, a notebook, a sweater, a photo of Felix and me from happier times, and tucked them under my arm. Then I walked back to where Roland stood, talking with Lily about her exciting new responsibilities. "I resign, effective immediately," I said clearly, loudly enough that everyone in the warehouse heard. "Best wishes to everyone." Roland's face went through several expressions at once. Confusion, surprise, dismissal. "Now, let's not be hasty. I'll send a formal letter by end of day." I walked toward the exit, past employees staring with open mouths, past Lily looking uncomfortable for the first time since arriving. I drove home in complete silence. No radio, no phone calls, just the sound of my breathing and the engine humming. When I walked into our apartment, Felix was working from home, sitting at the kitchen counter with his laptop. He took one look at my face. "What happened?" I told him everything. The promotion, the dismissal, my resignation. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he closed his laptop slowly. "What are you going to do?" he asked quietly. "End it," I replied. "All of it." I spent 3 hours drafting the letter. Felix sat beside me, reading each paragraph as I wrote it. When I reached the final section, the part explaining that I was dissolving the entire business entity, that all contracts would be void, that everyone would be terminated, he put his hand over mine. "You're sure?" he whispered. "There's no going back from this." "I'm sure," I replied. The letter laid it out clearly, professionally, without emotion. As the registered owner of the business entity, I was exercising my legal right to dissolve the company with 30 days' notice as required by state law. Upon dissolution, all contracts under the company name would become void. All employment would be terminated. The facility lease, held under the business name, would end. Supplier agreements would cease. Client contracts would need to be renegotiated with whatever new entity might form. I explained briefly, without drama, that the business structure had been created to protect my family's investment, with me as primary owner on all legal documents. Roland had functioned as operations manager, but ultimate ownership and liability had always rested with me. Now I was choosing to end that arrangement. I sent it by courier at 4 o'clock, marked urgent, signature required. I knew Roland would open it immediately. He always read official mail right away, paranoid about missing something important. My phone rang at 4:07. "What is this?" His voice shook. "This can't be right. You can't do this." "Check the formation documents," I said calmly. "Check the state business registry. Check any contract or license. My name is on everything. I have full legal right to dissolve." "But why? This is insane. You're destroying everything." "I'm ending my participation in something that doesn't value me. You're free to start your own company." "Start my own. That will take months. We'll lose every client. Employees will be without jobs." "Then I suggest you start today. Please." The word came out strangled. "We can fix this. Better salary. Partnership. Real partnership this time. Anything you want." "I don't want partnership in something that sees me as replaceable." "But the employees. They have families. And what about Felix's inheritance? You're destroying your own husband's future." Felix took the phone from my hand gently. "Dad, I'm with her. We're both leaving." Rhea got offered a position at a research facility in the city. Actual leadership. Actual recognition. "We're taking it. We're moving." I heard Roland's voice go quiet, then desperate. "You can't both abandon this. I built this for you. For our family." "No, Dad," Felix said, voice steady but sad. "Rhea built it. You just had your name on the sign. There's a difference." He ended the call. The next 30 days unfolded exactly as I'd predicted. The business dissolved. Roland tried frantically to form a new entity, but without my family's capital, without the supplier relationships I'd personally built, without the systems I'd created and maintained, nothing came together. Banks wouldn't extend him credit. Suppliers wouldn't offer favorable terms to someone starting from scratch. Clients took their contracts elsewhere, unwilling to gamble on an untested operation. Lily quit after 2 weeks, overwhelmed and underprepared. The employees scattered to other jobs, some angry, most just confused about how everything had fallen apart so quickly. Roland tried calling 17 times in those 30 days. I answered once, on day 23. "I never understood what you actually did until you stopped doing it," he said, voice hollow and defeated. "I thought I was running everything. But it was you. The whole time. It was you." I didn't respond. What was there to say? Some people only recognize value in the shape it leaves when it's gone. Felix and I moved to the city 3 weeks later. The research facility position was real. Better pay, actual 40-hour weeks, leadership that valued expertise over family connections. I walked into that building on my first day and felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Respected. My parents got their investment back through the business dissolution process. Recovered most of it anyway. They never blamed me. "You gave him a chance," my father said simply. Some people squander chances. 6 months after everything ended, I got one final message from Roland. Just 4 words. "I'm sorry. You won." But here's the thing he never understood. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about revenge. It was about finally stopping the bleeding out of myself into something that only took and never gave back, stopping the pretending that dedication would eventually be recognized, stopping the sacrifice that nobody valued because it came so reliably they forgot it was a choice. I didn't gain anything material from dissolving that business. No money, no competing company, no stolen clients. I just walked away and took what was already mine, my name, my time, my future, and left behind only the empty space where my work used to hold everything up. Felix and I eat dinner together now. Every evening, we talk about our days, make plans for weekends, remember what it feels like to be partners. He never resented my decision, never once suggested I'd been too harsh. "You gave him 3 years of your life," he told me once. "That's more than generous for someone who couldn't even say thank you." Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop. Stop holding up people who would never hold you. Stop building things for people who treat your work like air, invisible, until it's gone. Stop waiting for recognition that will never come from people who only see your value in what you can do for them. Roland's business is gone. The warehouse sits empty. Lily works in retail now. The employees found other jobs. And me? I'm finally building something that has my name on it because I chose to put it there, not because someone needed a legal shield. I'm creating value for people who actually see it. I'm working hours that leave room for living. If this story made you think about your own situation, about places where you're giving everything and getting nothing, drop a comment below. Tell me about it. Sometimes just saying it out loud is the first step toward finally stopping. And if you stayed until the end of this story, hit that subscribe button because you get it. You understand that the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's simply refusing to be destroyed anymore. Some lessons cost everything to learn. Some people only see what they had after it's gone. And some of us finally learn that walking away isn't giving up. It's taking back what was ours all along.